Hello everyone, welcome back to another Empathy Week speaker series. Today I am joined by Ella Podmore MBE, who is a female engineer, works for McLaren. I've had the pleasure of working with her in the past, doing some film work. I'm so delighted that she is here today to talk about her spark. So Ella, welcome. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and say what is your spark?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you, Ed. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Ella Podmore. I am a materials engineering manager at a luxury supercar firm, and I have been an engineer for about 7 years now. But my spark and what gets me up, what makes me want to do everything that I do on a day-to-day basis now is that element of high performance. We'll get into what an engineer does and the solving the problems, but the reason that I do what I do and I work in the industry where I work is because I love getting results when the laws of physics potentially tell you that you can't do that. It's breaking those boundaries and shattering records that really, really gets me going, and that's my spark.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds incredible. How did you even get into this field of work? How did you go from school to where you are now and working with one of the biggest, are we allowed to say?
Yeah, I think we can say working for McLaren Automotive, but just like what? My dream company. So I ended up getting here because I loved science at school. I loved fixing problems and having that logical mentality, understanding like, oh yeah, this is how I come to the solution of a problem. And I think the high performance element came from me being a sportswoman. I loved being part of a team and contributing to something a little bit bigger than just my individual self. I loved working together, scoring and being part of something that had morale like that. And so going through school and combining my love for science and problem solving, I was fortunate that I was like, right, I know this is what an engineer does. My love for chemistry is something that I want to wrap into an engineering career. What does that look like for me? And it pointed me down chemical engineering, materials engineering, and exploring both those routes. I realized that materials engineering was going to change the world. And I know I'm biased, but it blew my mind what that subject was going to do for us in terms of, electrical devices and battery operated cars, everything wanting to get smaller and lighter. It had a materials related ethos to it. So I pursued that. But I wanted to be an engineer, but again, I wanted to contribute to something bigger and better. You can be an engineer and you can create function, and that's great. And we need function, we need things and applications that solve problems. But I wanted to contribute to something that was going to put on the edge as to whether we could do that. Could we shave those seconds off? Can we shave those milligrams off? Can we do something that has never been done before? And I grew up loving cars, and I think naturally I have put the two loves together, and I found myself in a high performing supercar brand that allows me to be around products that I grew up admiring on the TV, but then also scratches that itch of me wanting to shave seconds off and be part of a team and do something that kind of challenges the laws of physics that we know today.
You've talked a lot there about engineering. Before we move on to that, how would you even break the word down engineering? Because someone might be at school and thinking, oh, there's so many different types of engineer, but what does that word actually mean to you? How would you explain that?
I'm glad you picked this up because people don't necessarily study engineering at school. Engineering to me is creating a solution to a problem that contributes to industry. And anyone can do that. Literally anyone could be an engineer. And going through school and learning about what's out there, you can have engineering behind absolutely everything you do. If you break down what you do for your extracurricular activities, your hobbies, music, chess, sports, everything has an engineering creative thinking process behind it. And that's what's so beautiful about the subject, but also I think that can be the drawback of the subject as well. It is so broad, which we don't categorize as a classroom session, that sometimes it can seem scary that no, I haven't studied engineering, I'm not going to become an engineer, but anyone can do it. And it's also the stereotype that I'd love to shred, is that you don't have to be a brainiac to be an engineer. You don't have to be good at maths and physics to be an engineer. So to me, it's that contribution to industry and that fixing a problem, creating an innovative solution to something that to improve the world. And I genuinely think there is no better way to put your stamp and make the world a better place than to be an engineer right now.
Amazing. And what are some of those day-to-day problems that you are solving? You're saying, right, you've got this problem, and you're setting out to fix it. What are some of the day-to-day things at McLaren that you would identify as a problem and that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so again, it's high performance. Everything that we do comes from a lightweighting perspective. So the materials that we use obviously have to deliver high stresses, high loads, but then we don't want anything unnecessary on the vehicle. So every sort of milligram that we put in and everything that we design, our tolerances are tight because we don't want to overspec a material that be really heavy and then we're only using about 60% of the load from it. So all the tolerances we want to be relatively close because everything on that car has purpose. But it does mean that when we test vehicles or when we have prototypes, we push it to the limits, whether that be from an environmental perspective, a load perspective, track driving, ice driving, desert driving. Like there are so many ways that we're really testing those materials. And although I can't go into any specifics, I guess, of what I'm looking into, but the first port of call if something happens or we've pushed and experimented with the durability of a part, the first thing they want to do before putting it in front of anyone, they want to look at how that's behaved. So it comes to me and my team, we get it under a microscope and we look at almost down to an atomic level, what has gone on that material. Is there anything that we can change, we can enhance? Because it really starts with that microstructure. It starts with the atoms and how they're interacting with each other. And then if we make changes on those microscopic levels, when we bring it back out into the bulk of the car, that's when it makes the difference in terms of weight saving and performance. So a lot of it is microscopic work. A lot of it is kind of forensic work, but it's that problem solving, that working back, that reverse engineering that makes me love what I do every day.
Amazing. And I think it's probably safe to say still you're in a male dominated environment. And that's something that I think engineering is also attributed is to more males just because of the amount of people or men that work in that industry. How is this changing? And also, you're quite an active voice in this in terms of trying to get more young women and girls into engineering. What's your experience being like working in a male dominated environment? And what would your advice be to others, whether they are male, female, to get into that engineering role?
Yeah, so I've been in the sector nearly 7 years now, 8 including my internship. And it is no secret, there's still a long way to go. I think especially in the automotive sector, the supercar sector is even more niche still. But I want people to change the narrative on how they view that, right? So yes, a lot of times in my career, I have found myself and still find myself as the only woman in the room. And change is coming. I've noticed a huge change in the time that I've been involved. I think the move towards electrification and new technologies allows us to diversify the talent pool. We're looking for people with different skill sets. We're branching out into what feeds the technology of a supercar. It's no longer just the mechanical and automotive engineers. We need computer scientists, we need chemical engineers. So that diversification is definitely going to help. But what I don't want young girls and boys listening to this thinking is that they have to wait for that change. It can seem scary. It can seem that you're in a spotlight if you are of an ethnic minority or you know that you're going to be a minority in the workspace. And I can only say from having been that minority and still am relatively that minority, is to change the narrative and how you see that. I've seen it as an opportunity, and I've had some incredible things happen in my life, travel across the world, representing, meeting some incredible people as well, because I am a woman in this space. I would have had to say that I've worked a little bit harder. I've had a double whammy of being the only person of my technical skill set, but then also being a young female in this space as well, where I've had to really prove myself. But the beauty of engineering, the beauty of science and technology is that quite often you represent facts and figures. You're removing the opinion from it. And so my confidence and self-assurance came from the fact that, Ella, you're presenting science. If people don't agree with you, then go and do it a different way. Ask for more money. Let's do a testing. Let's represent the facts and figures in a different way that's more palatable. And so use that spotlight to let you tailor your career path to wherever you may want that to be, because it may seem daunting, but I will say that doors open because of it, and I have never looked back. I don't think I'll be chatting to you today, Ed, if it weren't the case that there was gender disparity in this, and I was a STEM ambassador, and I wanted to show young girls and boys what incredible opportunities we have in STEM because of the skill set shortage that we have in the UK. Now, if that didn't exist, I don't think I would be this, advocate for STEM and being invited to all these events. So change the narrative and how we see it, step into it, lean into it, open doors for other people, because I think I've become 10 times the person that I would have done if I just was an engineer and, didn't see these issues and want to talk about it.
Amazing. And a lot of what you've mentioned there links heavily with my next question around connecting with people, getting different perspectives, trying to change ideas. And a lot of this comes down to empathy, which obviously is the focus of this week as well. Connecting with other people, being able to connect across differences, cultures, ideas, skill sets. How important is that skill of empathy in your workplace, which is a very scientifically dominated field and job, and there's lots of high stresses and pressures? How important is that skill of empathy in your life and your work?
I love this question because I think people reflecting on the technology industry, the science industry, or any engineering firm, I think it's easy to sort of misinterpret that as, oh, it's very black and white. It's facts and figures, it's yes or no. But when you're in a high pressured environment, and we are still learning this all across the industry, it's not as transparent as yes or no, right or wrong. Sometimes you need to understand where those answers are coming from. Sometimes you need to understand and work with a team of people. As I said, as we're diversifying to create better products and faster cars and more incredible technology in the UK, we are having to work with different characters, different personalities, different people from different backgrounds. And at the core of it, comes communication. Making decisions and high pressure and matching deadlines or having to think quickly on your feet all comes down to how you can communicate that craft across multiple different departments. Materials engineer to materials engineer may be relatively straightforward, but that is never the case. I'm having to speak upwards to executives, downwards to technicians, interpret the data that I do. And it all comes back to that communication. I think breaking the communication down even further, you need to understand that individual. And empathy is at the core of that. And I think large manufacturing firms are only starting to realize this and understand the person behind making those decisions. It's interesting, I think Formula One teams are accelerated in their understanding of empathy of individuals now, because they are having to make those decisions. There's more of a human element to it. And I've noticed a change as we've migrated through the eras of Formula One, where it used to be very clinical, black and white decision making thing. Now it's all about fan engagement, how the team feels as a family. How do we encourage the support and make everyone feel like they're working towards one goal? And that all comes down to individualities, empathy, getting the best out of that individual, the efficiency of it. And so working for a manufacturer now, I think we're starting to understand that, and it's a really exciting journey. Um, and yeah, the more we can do to stress the importance of it and learn how to get the efficiency out of people, I think is only going to be a good thing in the future.
Amazing. Love everything you've said, Ella. Thank you so much for joining with us. One last quick question before we go. What's the sort of greatest piece of advice you can give from your sort of 8-year career so far that you can pass on to the next generation of young engineers?
I'm going to give you two little nuggets of wisdom, hopefully. I think, as cheesy as this may sound, to really find your passion. And you hear about the saying, oh, if you find something that you love, you'll never feel like you're working a day in your life. Okay, there are times where you are working. But I think that the easiest thing for me to say is really find what interests you. I have gotten to where I am today because I have combined two loves, but there is a huge world out there. Don't feel pressured to do something because you think it's the right thing to do. Find what you want to do. And there is so much out there. Use the resources at your disposal to find that niche, because it's definitely out there. Even if it's not a subject yet, it probably will be soon. The second piece of advice would be to not be afraid of failure. And in the curriculums and the schools and the pressures that students are under now, it may feel like life or death is literally dependent on a grade that you get in a coursework or an exam. This is not the case. Having been in an environment now where I consider this to be my dream job, and I'm like wanting to be a perfectionist and wanting to do the best things and get everything right, actually, we learn the most from failures. I will say that failing as an engineer is the greatest part of where you can learn, adapt, enhance, and overcome. If you don't fail, you don't learn. And being in this environment, failing fast and learning quicker is something that I had to adapt to. So do not worry about that grade. Do not worry about not getting into that assessment center or whatever. It's what have you learned from it? What did you pick back up? How did you adapt the test? How did you get further results? And you can use that in an individual sense as well. So embrace it, pick yourself up. It's that resilience that's going to get you to where you are, not the talent and the right first time attitude.
Amazing. What a way to end. Ella, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy at work, which you can't tell us what it is because it's top secret. I know that. But thank you so much. Thank you for those people that have watched and tuned in, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.